Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome to God TV Radio. Take it away, Brett.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keene from God TV Radio. I hope you're all having a wonderful day out there, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show. Today, we are going to have a debate where TTOR and Smokey Saint are going to try to figure out if Smokey Saint is a person named Josh and if he's a convicted pedophile. That's what the debate's about. This is actually what Smokey himself initiated and requested. I could show you right here. He said, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
All right, put it up on the screen so I can make sure everybody understands why we're even doing this. Your friend TTOR 13 is too cowardly and immoral to confront me on my platform with his lies, slander, and false accusations. His Christian morality is fake, so I offer the alternative. I challenge him on your platform to a neutral exchange where he can give his arguments to support his lying, false accusations against me and his idolatry of the government. And I can respond to cross-examine his fallacious epistemology. Let me know if you're willing when this can be arranged. So obviously it's been arranged and the discussion can go. First, we're going to start with TTOR. He's going to present what he believes in his perspective to be solid evidence, and then we will let Smokey respond to the information that is presented. TTOR, are you ready?
Sure am. So when it comes to answering the question of whether or not Smokey Saint is a convicted pedophile, we have to answer the question, is he in particular Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell? Because that is what's at the crux of whether or not Smokey Saint is a convicted pedophile. So we're going to go through several video clips as well as a couple of pictures, and we're also going to screen share an important document that Smokey Saint has a problem with, but we'll get to that much later. So first, we're going to look at a 45-second clip of Smokey Saint in a recent live stream that he did, and it's only for one reason that we're showing this clip: to establish what Smokey Saint looks like, what he sounds like, his speaking mannerisms, etc., just so we know who we're talking about before we get into any of the other things. And with that, I will play the first clip.
Live a good life, given to the work of the Holy Spirit, synergize with the work of the Holy Spirit, strive for good works, abstain from immorality, all these things that are typically, traditionally expected of a Christian inside the Church of Christ. And just do that. Start with free grace. It's fine. Believe it for a nanosecond or a second or a day or I don't know, whatever it is that, they ultimately decide is enough. You give the mental assent to free grace. You don't have to have any demonstration of change or alteration in your viewpoint or perspective or a change in your belief network or a change in your perspective or decisions or judgments. None of that. You don't have to worry about that. Just have that little bit of intellectual assent and you're good. You're locked in.
So we know what Smokey Saint sounds like. We know what he looks like. We got his mannerisms figured out from that clip. So now we can go into other things. Now, I don't know if Smokey denies this currently or not, but I know some of his fans and followers deny that he is the one who spoke to Jesse Lee Peterson in 2018 on Jesse Lee Peterson's show. So now we're going to look at a 47-second clip of that particular episode of Jesse Lee Peterson's show, and then we will do some analysis of that clip.
The biblical scholarships, why do you need them if the Holy Spirit would teach you all things?
Well, because the Holy Spirit will also teach us through the teachings of other people, through the revelations that have been given to them. It's not, you see, you're saying it all comes from inside, inside period.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then that's invalidating whether or not the Holy Spirit could use someone having a revelation like yourself, a revelation about the necessity of forgiveness and forgiving your parents. And we would say, well, unless it comes from inside, unless it's a revelation from inside, it has no weight or measure. Therefore, whatever Jesse says can be, disavowed. So you're actually defeating your own argument, unfortunately.
So as we can see from that particular clip, even though it is 7 years old, that is definitely Smokey Saint. He's got the same balding head up top. He's got the glasses. He's got the same eyes, the same mouth shape, the same nose. Even though he's got only the full goatee instead of the full beard, it looks exactly like Smokey Saint when he has the full beard, especially if you look at the facial hair around the mouth area. That in particular is a dead ringer. But more importantly than those things, it is the voice that definitely identifies this as Smokey Saint. Even though he is 7 years younger in this clip and therefore sounds slightly different, that's acceptable because, as everyone knows, as you age, your voice changes. But that's definitely Smokey's voice, and that's definitely Smokey's speaking mannerisms when he talks theology. So I think it's pretty safe to establish at this point that Smokey Saint is the person who was talking to Jesse Lee Peterson on that show back in 2018. Now that we know that Smokey Saint has been on the internet for a while, we know what he sounds like in 2025 versus 2018, what he looks like now versus what he looked like then. We're going to go ahead and look at Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell, because as you'll see from the mugshots we're about to be looking at, dead ringer, absolute dead ringer. So what we see here on screen is from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. This is their sex offender registry website, as we can see from the URL, sexoffender.ncsbi.gov. And we got one Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell. We got a front shot and we got the two side profile shots. And as you can see, if you're looking at this from the viewing audience, whether it's live or whether it's after the fact, this is Smokey Saint. Same balding head up top, same eyes, same nose, same mouth, the full beard, just like you see with Smokey Saint today. No glasses in these pictures, but I don't think they let you wear glasses when they take your mugshot, so that's understandable. And if you look at this after the fact, well, I'll make the link to this particular thing available after the stream is done. Those watching can go look at it for yourself and draw your own conclusions. But this is a dead ringer for Smokey Saint here. All the same distinguishing physical features that you see with Smokey Saint. So now we know what Smokey Saint looks and sounds like. We know that Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell looks exactly the same as Smokey Saint. So we know that Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell is a registered sex offender. He committed liberal indecency against a minor, specifically when she was 13 years old in January of 2004, which by definition makes Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell a convicted pedophile. You have to be a convicted pedophile to make that list. So with that in mind, there is an evidence live stream that Smokey Saint did where basically he claims to have proved his innocence and that he never molested this girl back in 2004. But we're going to look at one particular clip of the live stream, which is very relevant. I skipped the first 3 minutes of the video they were looking at because basically what they do is they try to frame Smokey Saint / Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell as being a victim of the Me Too movement by giving a history lesson on the history of the Me Too movement. But after they finish that segment, we see this clip.
Flash forward to 2017, when Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell of Southern California was accused in much the same vein as the aforementioned women previous by a woman in her early 30s in North Carolina. This is the topic of today's video essay, and this is his story. The woman in question, who we will call for our purposes today Satori, quote unquote, alleged that when she was 13 years old in 2004, Josh started an intimate sexual relationship with her that was illicit, illegal, and predatory in nature, sending inappropriate messages of a sexual nature to her on a website called Gaia Online. According to one of her provided witnesses in a post-interview on a channel called Thick Shades, her mother reported that she knew about the relationship but did not approve. Joshua was facing 25 years in federal prison and a lifetime on the sex offenders registry list. And at that time in 2017, over a decade later, and in fact almost 2 decades later, he pled guilty to indecent liberties with a minor, getting what was essentially a slap on the wrist.
So, when you look at the court documents and you take that video into account, Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell not only was charged with, I believe it was 4 counts of statutory rape and 3 of liberal indecency with a minor, he also chose to represent himself in court instead of hiring an attorney. And as the court documents show, and as we saw in that clip, and as we're going to see in a clip from the victim here in a minute, Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell pled guilty to one of the charges, I believe it was, of liberal indecency with a minor. He was facing 25 years in a federal prison and life on the sex offender registry, but by taking a plea deal and pleading guilty to one of these charges, well, then he avoids jail time and he's able to have the possibility of being removed from the sex offender registry after 10 years, which would be March 30th, 2032, if you do your math right. So that's what happened in terms of his conviction, in terms of how he represented himself in court and how he pled. Now I want to look at 2 particular clips by the victim who went on to Thick Shades' live stream back in 2022. And after we've watched both clips, there's a point I'd like to make.
Yeah, and also we have someone else, Satori. She was here before. How are you, Satori? You can introduce yourself, and tell us why you think that this is quite important.
Hi guys, I'm Satori. Kent, you are wrong, and I happen to know that you were wrong. I'll just go right ahead and say it. Let me start out by saying I am in no way going to sit here and say that Joshua is Smokey. And you'll probably understand in just a moment why I am going to say that I'm not going to sit here and tell you all that he is who he is, because I don't know who Smokey is. I do know who Joshua is. I will tell you that I know for a fact that Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell was in courtroom 5310 and pled guilty to a charge of indecent liberties with a child because I was that child. I'm the victim in that case.
Now on to clip 2.
Does Smokey sounds like Josh? I think that is for you, Satori. Does Smokey sounds like Josh?
I'm going to be very very careful here and say that I am not going to say at any point that Smokey is Josh, because I'm not going to put myself in that position.
Right.
Do I think they sound the same? I think they sound the same.
Now, there's an important question that must be asked when you look at these 2 clips in their totality. The victim says that Joshua and Smokey Saint sound exactly the same, but she's not willing to positively ID Smokey Saint as Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell. Why? Well, we know why if we do a little bit of thinking. You see, back in 2022, Smokey Saint never showed his face on camera during any of his live streams. And in the case of the victim, she didn't want to just say Smokey Saint was Joshua based on only voice identification. She wanted to be able to see what Smokey Saint looked like because she didn't just want to match a voice to a voice. She wanted to be able to match a voice to a voice and a face to a face. And because she didn't know what Smokey Saint looked like, she wasn't willing to say that Smokey Saint and Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell were the same person based on voice alone. Now, it is interesting to note that when reacting to this back in the day, Smokey Saint here actually committed a Freudian slip.
Don't you think what's funny? That bitch never confirmed that I was Smokey, and she knows what my voice sounds like, and she knows what that guy's voice sounds like, and she saw the images, but she would never confirm it. Of all people, wouldn't she be the one to confirm it?
I'm going to try playing that clip again because I just had a little blip in my internet.
Don't you think what's funny? That bitch never confirmed that I was Smokey, and she knows what my voice sounds like, and she knows what that guy's voice sounds like, and she saw the images, but she would never confirm it. Of all people, wouldn't she be the one to confirm it?
So we see in that particular clip, Smokey doesn't say, well, shouldn't she be able to positively identify me as Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell based on the voice and the images? No, he says, shouldn't she have been able to identify me as Smokey? He's talking as if he is Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell. The biggest Freudian slip I have ever seen. Now, when it comes to establishing that Smokey Saint is Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell, it takes more than a Freudian slip to establish that connection, and that's where this next clip comes in handy.
Do you recognize this person?
He looks extremely familiar for being at the courtroom, yes.
Okay, so can you say that he's actually at the courtroom?
Yes.
Okay, so he was definitely not in Noah's Ark, for example. In other words, he was saying that he was, since the brown background and all that, and he said that he was in some Noah's Ark park.
The person who I can tell you most definitely was there was the other person in the picture who was sucking down the water.
Right. I mean,
I wasn't paying that much attention to that person.
This one, the one sucking down the water with that, look at the face, so relieved. It's like, whew, I avoided the prison time kind of thing.
So, as we can see from that clip, the victim positively identified Kenny Rhodes as being in the courtroom with Joshua. And this is very important because Kenny Rhodes is, according to him, the personal pastor of Smokey Saint, or at least he was back in 2022 when he was running around all of our live streams trying to defend Smokey Saint. And this is important because during this time, it was revealed by Kenny Rhodes that him and Smokey Saint were going on a road trip and that they were going to go visit some Ark exhibit, whatever, which is why Thick Shades mentioned it in that clip. But what we actually discover is that Kenny Rhodes was in the exact same courtroom where this court day went down and where Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell was pleading guilty to committing a sex crime against a minor. So you look at the pictures here because you can't look at them closely enough in a 50-second clip. That's Kenny Rhodes wearing a blue-colored shirt with what looks to be a dark gray jacket. And then you look at the second picture that was in that clip, you can see that even though there's a woman standing in front of him, that's Kenny Rhodes behind her. You can see the blue collar, you can see the gray jacket arm, you can see his hair kind of sticking out from the other side of her head. And the one sucking down the water, Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell, as you can see, is Smokey Saint. He's got the same balding head up top, the same full beard, the same mustache between the nose and the mouth. The nose and the mouth look identical to Smokey Saint. And that's really very crucial because Kenny Rhodes being there would not be a thing if Smokey Saint was not Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell. It just wouldn't be. I mean, I guess Smokey Saint could say it's just an incredible coincidence that Kenny Rhodes just happened to be there. But if Smokey Saint and Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell are the same person and Smokey Saint's pastor, the personal pastor of Smokey Saint, is Kenny Rhodes, well, then it makes all the sense in the world that Kenny Rhodes was there at this particular court date on March 30th, 2022. It's because he was being there to be in solidarity with Smokey Saint. So I think when you add up all the video clips and you look at the mugshots in the sex offender registry and you compare the courtroom pics to all of those, like we just saw, and then you factor in the fact that Kenny Rhodes was there at the court date, at the court hearing, when we know full well that Kenny Rhodes was the personal pastor of Smokey Saint. And then after this conviction happened, Kenny Rhodes spent the next couple of months going on to everyone's live stream trying to defend Smokey Saint by justifying and normalizing pedophilia by appealing to my biology and trying to argue that the Virgin Mary was a minor when the whole thing in the New Testament Gospels went down with Jesus's birth. So I think based on the compilation of all of those data points, I believe it is lock solid 100% that Smokey Saint is Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell. And since Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell is a convicted pedophile and is on a sex offender registry list, it stands to reason that Smokey Saint is a convicted pedophile because him and Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell are the same man. That's all I really have to say as far as answering the question, is Smokey Saint a convicted pedophile? And I will let Brett and Smokey Saint take over.
All right, Smokey Saint, do you have a retort?
I do, and I'd like to open with a couple things. First of all, that was a 20-minute opening. I think that probably should have been at least discussed or talked about, as there was a lot of rambling, and I think that was a little weird and a little excessive, especially for repeating a bunch of points that don't matter. Second of all, I want to reiterate, this could have been done on my channel, in my environment. I'm now on TTOR's channel, which wasn't supposed to be, but Brett got hit. I'm sorry. That's a bad thing. That's rough. I'm sorry that happened. YouTube is a bitch. It's terrible that that happens, but we're now on an adverse environment. I have come into an adverse environment. Why? Because TTOR was too scared to come onto my channel, claim that he would be mistreated, and wanted to have a different environment. So I've come into an adverse environment, and both the mod here, Brett, and TTOR have both personally attacked me on this matter. So I am willing to come over here and defend myself even in an adverse environment, which TTOR did not have the nerve to be willing to do. So I'll start going through some of his points, and I kind of anticipated what he would claim to be the case. So I'll just start going through some of the notes I initially took to kind of refute some of the stuff I knew he was going to say. First of all, Smokey Saint Samurai the Dim, he did a really good video the other day, about an hour long. He gives evidence of reasonable doubt that JLPJ and Mugshot Josh are actually the same person. Part of TTOR's argument is actually to claim that those two are the same person, and he makes a big claim about the mannerisms and the way that he talks and stuff like that. There is nothing showing the mannerisms or the way Josh Herbell talks. There's nothing out there demonstrating into that, or has ever been demonstrated for comparison. So he makes a big deal that JLPJ must be Josh, but he has no connective argument for that. His only argument is to claim that I am JLP Josh, that they're claiming is Josh. But of course, this is just a reach. This is just a grab. His whole claim about mannerisms and stuff don't match JLP Josh to supposedly Mecklenburg Josh. So, and then of course you have the additional issue that the mugshot that was taken around the time of the JLP Josh, which is the mugshot Josh, those don't really look the same. Those look very different. And that's kind of one of the things that Boki made a note of. So even his own justification inside of his argument about mannerism stuff can't be carried through to make it actually be Josh. In fact, there's really no good justification to say for sure it is Josh, other than to simply rely upon claims that he can't justify. On top of that, let's see here. Pictures are very close in time, look very different. People with similar but different facial features. That's the difference between Mugshot Josh and JLP Josh. So it's hard to believe they are the two person, even if you do collect JLP Josh to being me. Let's see. The title of the debate is ridiculous, and I'll mention I had no input on the title of the debate. TTR just unilaterally chose this, and I just decided to go along with it. It's fine. It actually fails on the face, and this is why. There is no such thing as a convicted pedophile. It's not a thing. Pedophilia is defined as an attraction to a prepubescent children. And sadly cannot be legislated against because of the hazard of legislating against any thought crime is untenable and unethical. So to say convicted pedophile, it's not even something that is or even can be prosecuted. So it's fallacious right on its face. And he chose the title of the debate. He just doesn't think very clearly. Additionally, even if a conviction happens, a conviction is not sufficient in and of itself to diagnose the psychological state of a person. So in some instances, according to the Bureau of Behavioral Sciences, it can't even be used at all. A diagnosis to someone's state in terms of their attractions or psychological state, you can't simply rely upon a statement of conviction because the conviction doesn't really say anything, especially since the laws are so vacuous and broad ranging. And someone who is even fooled into believing someone is of age can be convicted and therefore would not demonstrate that someone at all actually has an attraction to underage people whatsoever. So it's even fallacious on that point to even claim that even the conviction demonstrates someone as an actual pedophile, and especially this charge because, of course, TTOR is just using a very colloquial, cultural term of a pedophile, which is inaccurate, which, of course, is attraction to prepubescent children, which even if you take the most impossible version of events with the youngest age, which is literally impossible from what's been provided, even then, you're right on the edge of being able to really claim that this is convicted pedophilia. So even if I was Josh, none of the information would actually matter because Josh is innocent of the narrative that he was accused of. Multiple bullet points have been provided to show that she is a liar and her story is a fabrication, and not that that should actually even matter because actually nothing's ever been shown to validate her story. Not even Rob Reed, who goes around loving to carry water for her and claim that what she's saying is true. Not even Rob Reed has ever been able to provide one single iota of evidence. And the reason for the Me Too movement being mentioned is because it was illegal jury nullification. And it's weird for anyone to not notice that people all over the world were told not to follow evidence, not to judge based upon evidence, but to just judge based upon whatever the narrative is, what is said. And that poisoned the well of the judiciary in a lot of ways. And there are tons of stories, tons and tons and tons of stories, just of ones that were caught and found out of women who got men arrested and destroyed their lives with absolutely no evidence, only for them to have to prove their innocence later just to get off the hook. So the entire system has become fundamentally bankrupt. Another bullet point to mention, and this is important, the police report referenced by Rob Reed is actually fallacious on its face, and no one seems to pay attention to this as if it really matters. But factually, the two parties in the report are 7 years apart in age, but the report reads them as 8 years apart in other areas, showing it's factually inaccurate even on its face. Even this supposed thing that houses the narrative of truth of what actually happened can't even get its mind straight, and some of that might have to do with all the various stories that she told at various points in time that many times contradict each other, and naming timeframes and events that couldn't happen until years after the fact of what she was claiming, which is what was demonstrated in that video that TTOR only played a tiny portion of. Because apparently her narrative, which absolutely no justification and no evidence and no corroboration at all, is enough to be believed. But anything on the contrary side needs a higher standard of evidence for TTOR to believe it, which shows he is an epistemological hypocrite and an immoral man. So what does this mean when such an essential detail about a technical violation of state law claimed over a decade after the fact is erroneous on its face? It might mean there's no real care for accuracy in reporting what is supposedly substantiated and significant crime. Why have confidence in the rest when even such a simple detail can be so blatantly wrong? Keep in mind, North Carolina consent laws would allow for a 20-year-old to have sex with as many 14-year-olds as he wants with no legal consequences, as age gap laws allow for 6 years age difference. This is why it wasn't made into a case that Satori's star witness was a boy named Nick who lived in Virginia, who never witnessed anything. Nick was about 15 to 16 years old when he started sexually texting 12-year-old Satori. This is her groomer, but his actions are perfectly legal in their respective jurisdictions. Despite this, the claim of a 21-year-old in a monogamous long-distance relationship with a single 14-year-old with family knowledge and consent is somehow automatically predatory from the arbitrary legal standard with no care of the relationship even fits the definition of predatory. So close to the edge of technicality was the claimed defense that it wouldn't have even been illegal in many surrounding states. Pedophiles are not objectively discerned by the subjective standard of where they are geographically when they act. A dangerous predator would be one that fits the bill of all culturally comparable geographies in an area, not just one patch, leveraged with a close technicality and a blatantly false narrative over a decade after the fact. And I will remind everyone that this story was concocted over a decade after the fact. So one has to beg the question, when Rob Reed or TTOR, one of these others, is reading all these supposed details, how would any of those details even be proven over a decade after the fact? It might behoove you to think, if all these things are factually accurate and proven, how would that even be true? How do you prove where someone got something 10 years ago? How do you prove that someone's singularly attested statements are true, especially when there's contradiction to other narratives? Did Satori tell the truth about her being married to a Marine stationed in Afghanistan? This was an interesting thing that popped up during her interviews with Thick Shades, something she claimed while she was popping up her own credentials and claiming to be this, big successful person. And one of the things she committed during this time was a blatant act of stolen valor, which no one caught, no one paid attention to, because a woman who had a label as a victim was talking and stating things. And so because of that, everyone just turned off their brains and believed whatever she said. But was she actually married to a Marine in Afghanistan? Well, that would be hard. How could that actually be true if she said this months after Biden had pulled all troops out of Afghanistan in one of the worst political blunders in his administration? Satori should have kept up with current events before telling such a blatant lie. And if she told this lie, that's so blatant and easy to prove, how many others of her narrative were lies that she provided no evidence and no justification for? Truthfully, at the time of this interview with Thick Shades, she was either divorced or going through a divorce from a DC attorney. She was never married to a Marine. She never was, and she wasn't even married at that time. She was either divorced or going through the process of a divorce. And then we have the call to her mother, which of course TTR kind of referenced in passing here, which is very weird and honestly I think kind of disgusting. Truth is established by two or more witnesses. This is the biblical standard of truth, one that Christians should adhere to, and one that TTOR has completely abandoned, which by the way also shows that his morality is fake. His faith is fake. His religion is fake. He doesn't actually follow biblical standards or biblical morality at all, because he's accepted all of this as true based upon the statements of a secular entity, which is the government, which he claims to be evil, as well as the statement of one individual woman over a decade after the fact, with no corroborating information or evidence ever being provided. TTR doubts the government. TTR thinks the government is evil, thinks it's covered by principalities and powers of darkness and should never be trusted. And yet he was willing to trust this statement from the U.S. government with no evidence at all whatsoever ever being provided to him. And then the question would beg itself to be asked to TTOR, what other things are you willing to believe that the government tells you without giving you any evidence to verify that what they're telling you is true? I bet it wouldn't be anything. And that, again, just shows that he is an immoral, illogical hypocrite with no actual biblical standard that he adheres to in terms of his judgment, and a good sign of a lack of sanctification and someone that indulges in idolatry. So, of course, worshiping, the government as opposed to the biblical standard of morality, the biblical standard of judgment, and trusting the secular standard shows him as an idolater. In case he decides to call me out on that later, that's the quick argument for it. The call to her mother was disgusting. Truth is established by two or more witnesses, but you can tell her mother didn't witness anything and had no clue what Satori wanted her to say. I believe she even said as such, "What do you want me to say?" Satori spent hours swearing that her parents had no clue about the relationship, only have her mother claim that she knew but didn't approve. If her mother is telling the truth, then Satori is a liar again. If you do believe her mother is telling the truth, then you have to explain how her own mother wasn't able to stop a relationship with her underage minor daughter that she didn't approve of. Maybe she couldn't do anything about it because Satori was actually legally able to consent to her relationships as an adult at the time. So you kind of have to decide who you believe. And either when you believe, you have a bit of a problem. Either her mother is telling the truth and Satori is a liar, or her mother was prepped poorly and is telling a lie and Satori is actually telling the truth. You're going to have to pick one or the other, and you have to admit this blatant hole of a lie in the narrative to try and present a particular tale with a particular objective instead of actually pointing to the truth of a matter. Here the internet has been given two witnesses, one of which isn't even a witness of anything. But even if she is to be taken as truthful, she contradicts the other witnesses with a vital fact, which is, of course, this idea of knowledge of the relationship and when it happened. Satori abused her mother to manipulate her into committing perjury to protect her own perjury. If you can't see how evil this is, there is something wrong with you. It makes no sense to be a dangerous predator and only target one person 20 years ago that was 3,000 miles away instead of anything even in his backyard. This shows a good sign he probably didn't think he was doing anything illegal. If the goal was an illegal relationship, he didn't have to go 3,000 miles away to get it. Way too much unnecessary work for this person to be claimed to be an opportunistic, dangerous predator. Also, TTOR actually has seemingly no actual knowledge about the contents of the file, what happened, what the charges are, what was pled to, or what it even means. Nor does he think about what it means that if they had such a strong case and so much evidence to verify her story, which is clearly a series of lies and contradictions based upon what's been provided from the other side, you do have to explain away the idea that TTOR cannot seem to get a lot of the facts right internally. Josh did not represent himself. He absolutely had an attorney, and even Rob Reed has confirmed that on multiple occasions, even given her name, or at least her first name. So this is another thing that TTOR probably doesn't even understand what he's actually reading. And if the case was so strong, it's weird that they would let go with just a few years probation if they really thought they had a case. But they can leverage the Me Too movement and the fact that they just need one person on that jury to get a hung jury. And the great thing about when you have a fake victim, they're really motivated because they love the attention, so they're happy to keep coming back. So really, you can just drown out the person with hung juries because of Me Too movement until they run out of money. You get stuck with a public defender, and then you don't get any type of deal. And then you really have to, get put in a rough situation where the system finally leverages its corruption against you. 99% conviction rate in many of these liberal jurisdictions. This is not a sign of proficiency or goodness at their job, is not a sign that they're doing a good job. It is a sign of utmost corruption. And the only reason, actually one of the main reasons you can think this, is to think about all the cops and all the things that cops do, including false arrests and false charges. And you'd have to think to yourself that cops are 99% efficient at being able to catch the person that actually committed the crime. This is not likely what is happening. No cops department on earth should ever be trusted to actually be this profession. This is a sign that the system internally is blatantly corrupt. And when DAs are celebrating their 99% conviction, not caring whether or not they've convicted innocent men, really shows that the culture is evil. And to even try to latch onto it as any justification or claim to truth shows you have an evil, wicked heart that is not Christian, that serves secularism and secular authorities above Christian moral standards, which is exactly what TTOR has demonstrated today. In terms of his situation, he was facing a life sentence, which TTOR confirmed, and yet they were only willing to settle for a few years probation. Hard to believe if that was such a strong case. Even Satori, with the clips that he pulled, Satori wasn't comfortable confirming identity and may have simply gave in for the sake ultimately of peer pressure, because if you'll notice, and not that TTOR really showed this particular point of context, and I don't expect he would, Sam kept hounding her relentlessly to confirm that it was me, and she kept denying, confirming that I'm Josh, that Josh is Smokey and all that, and she just wouldn't do it. And so then finally, I think she felt clear pressure and finally made a confirmation. In terms of the Freudian slip, there's been lots of instances where communicating with muddled ideas of identity, where even I've stated, like, even if I was this person, blah, 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 this is the case. So I'm not even sure about that Freudian stuff. And if he got it off a Thick Shades channel, which he admits that he did, it shouldn't be trusted at all. And TTR knows this. TTR knows that Thicky has limited credibility. He is a liar. He makes people say a bunch of things with his AI content that they never actually say. He doesn't tag it as AI, and he tries to pass it off as real statements. And you can tell that this wasn't taken from an original stream because of how it's edited with a mugshot in the circle making the claim. So I would need something more than something just provided from what is a known liar who fabricates lots of things all the time. If his claim is to Thicky for any type of evidence, I think that's a ridiculous claim to trust anything Thicky says or supposedly investigates or puts together. The courtroom where the pictures were taken, that was never confirmed that they came from the actual courtroom that this event was claimed to happen in. In fact, there is no verification of where those pictures came from and when or who they are necessarily of. In fact, actually, if you know anything, this was supposedly a sealed session, this supposed plea deal arrangement, and taking pictures would have been contempt of court. So we have to believe that someone in there, on the other side intentionally went in there to illegally take pictures. You have to believe someone did this, did something illegal in order to take the photos. And if that was true, and you're kind of relying upon that with no verification of when or where they came from, it wouldn't be admissible in a court of law or considerable as evidence in any way. Let's see if there's any other notes here. Okay. So it could kind of wrap up in terms of my opening. Really, TTR, even by his own initial arguments, doesn't really have any connection to JLP J or JLP Josh or JLP Smokey or whatever you want to say. Has no real connection to him being Joshua Nathan Marks or Bell, not by his claim of mannerisms and the like. He just switches all of a sudden to saying, well, he looks enough like him. Well, family members can look alike. So that's not really a sign of much of anything. And as far as he knows, he doesn't have any claim to the mannerisms and such. He has to be able to verify that JLPJ and or JLP Josh or JLPJ are that person that is in the mugshot, and that mugshot around the same kind look like very, very different people. The mugshot from 2017, and there is no facial hair at all. And of course, if that person, indeed was incarcerated, I think you'd find that shaves are hard to come by. So any case, let's see if there's anything else. Me Too movement. And this, of course, also begs the question in terms of an extrapolation of these facts is, can TTR show to any really significant standard that Josh is guilty and that the narrative of these facts is actually true? Because if it isn't, and he can't demonstrate it is, there's no reason to mention it at all. There's no reason to even bring it up. If there's no solid justification to believe it's true, then you shouldn't believe it's true. Now, TTR accepted this narrative, no evidence at all. Someone said it, some chick said it, even her own statements internally were blatantly false at times and contradictory, but TTR either didn't care to notice it or wasn't smart enough to notice it. And then when the information finally comes out in the video, kind of explaining the other side, he claims it's not good enough. And yet her unsubstantiated, unverified, unevidenced claims with no verification whatsoever were completely accepted and regarded as true. And yet somehow he has a hard time believing that this would be the state of affairs in a courtroom, that people just like him would show up and believe that something is true just based upon the surface of someone saying it. And you know that this is true because TTR himself did that and even jumped onto this bandwagon of guilt before a guilty plea had ever even been taken. He mentions what the guilty plea is. He also mentions that there were, 7 other charges, none of which actually fit into the actual plea. And in fact, the plea ended up being indecent liberties. And I'm willing to bet TTR doesn't even actually know what that is or what that even means, but it has nothing to do with statutory rape or even necessarily physical contact at all. And if her story was so true and verified, why would that be the state of affairs, that there's no actual charge for any actual physical contact? Maybe it's because through discovery, there were so many holes and contradictions and nonsense in her story that finally the DA was forced to give up the idea of chasing the more serious charges. But definitely, and by the detective's own admission, which is actually in the file that Will Kincaid has access to, the detective promised that they were going to get him on something. just something. And that is how they operate. It's also in the file and shows that the detective encouraged Satori to go talk to the people first that he was going to talk to. In many instances, people would look at that and think that's very unfair, that sounds like jury tampering. But in this jurisdiction, it was absolutely allowed and condoned, which is also mentioned in the video. All of these facts have been provided, but TTOR just dismisses them with a hand wave. And goes back to the original claim, which really is nonsensical and unnecessary and useless if the central core of the claim is completely false and untrue. And he has refused to regard the evidence and the fact that he has to rely upon the singular testimony of an exposed liar in order to believe that this is true. And TTR's standard is not to trust the government, and yet here he has trusted what the government has told him with absolutely no evidence to support it whatsoever. So it does show that he's a hypocrite and he has no Christian ethics. Christians don't operate this way. Christians understand that we must operate by a standard different than secularists. And even Paul tells us this in Romans 13 about the secular authorities, and even in 1 Corinthians about taking brother and brother against, to each other against law, letting secularists judge these matters who have secular standards. And of course, the court system today clearly only needs one witness. This is not a biblical standard of judgment. So to put any weight in a secularist, God-hating standard, which of course TTR claims that they are, and that the government is basically led by evil forces, he takes it with absolutely no evidence needed or provided. And do you know why? Because of his hate, because he has a hateful heart, because he hates me, because he's not following any good logic or good justification. It's that he hates me and he wants me silenced. He claims to be a proponent for free speech, but he sticks to this narrative for no other reason to try and distract, deflect, silence, get people to not listen to me. So he's a liar even in his own ideology multiple times. TTR is a hypocrite. He has no good biblical standard of justice or judgment, and has basically put all of his weight on trusting the word of a singular witness and a secular government that he knows is evil and does not use biblical standards of judgment or ascertaining truth. And with that, I guess I will go ahead and wrap up with whatever we have next. I don't know the structure of the debate, if we have open format or open engagement, or if it's just over. I don't know what it is.
I'm giving the opportunity for everybody to say what they need to say. There's no timer. I got no egg timer over here. I'm listening. TTOR, do you have a retort? Eventually, people are going to be able to fill in, and they can either ask their questions or be a part of the discussion. I ask that people don't come in and cuss people out or scream or yell or beat your chest like a feral animal. This is a serious topic. This isn't some kind of soap opera here that we're talking about. So let's try to keep it professional. Go ahead, TTOR, if you got something.
I just got two questions I would like to ask. The first question I'd like to ask is, after listening to you wax so poetically about how you got railroaded by the legal system, why did you plead guilty instead of not guilty to that charge against you? And why was Kenny Rhodes there if you were not Joshua Nathan Marks Herbal?
Well, again, I'll reiterate, you have no idea where those pictures came from, or if they were even just created. They were just provided by Thicky with no justification or idea of where they came from. And to even get those pictures would have been illegal, so I don't know why you trust they exist. So, and you don't know where they came from or what court firm they came from, so it's a ridiculous thing. As for why Josh would plead guilty, that has been addressed from multiple different angles and different ways, but I will address it again for your sake. And it does have to do with the fact that there was no chance of a fair trial. When you are in a liberal jurisdiction that has been overtaken by the illegal jury nullification movement of Me Too, where people are instructed not to follow evidence, which is what they're supposed to do in a trial, but they're instructed to listen to and believe whatever her narrative is. And these are people that, they show up on the weekend. They don't want to be there, and they don't really feel most of the time about paying attention to nuances or specifics or details. They just want to, get done with it and get out of there. And you have to trust them to be thorough and moral in their judgments. In a liberal jurisdiction, that would be a very, very hard thing to find. So a lawyer usually in many of these jurisdictions will come up and say you should just take a plea, because they're going to bleed you out. Clearly the victim's fake. She's loving every bit of this, loving the attention very clearly. She's going to be willing to keep coming back. So you'll get a hung jury, even if you make a great case. and you prove that her story's full of bullshit, there'll be one person in that jury that just says, I believe all women, and they'll vote for it, and you'll get a hung jury. And because she's, motivated, she's going to hop up and she's going to go ahead and keep going, and they're going to retry it because they got nothing but money. But you, of course, have a limited amount of money, so you'll run out of money by the first trial, maybe the second trial, if you're lucky. And then you're gonna have to fend with the system itself, maybe with a public defender, and then you're probably really going to get screwed because they're not going to give a lot of attention to defending your case. And a lot of people that get put in similar situations like this, they make difficult decisions, to either risk, losing their entire life, or simply biting the bullet that the system is corrupt. It leverages this thing. This is what it does. It gets 99%, conviction rates in many of these jurisdictions, which is a good sign of corruption. And you just have to bite the bullet. You may not like it. It may be unjust, but this is what we have. This is the system that we are all in, and all of us have to make our decisions with the cards we're dealt.
All right. We've got some people out here in the comments who are asking some questions.
Well, they can come in the room. They can come in the room. I'm not going to waste time deal with chat rats. If they want to talk to me, they can come in the room.
All right. Well, anybody that wants to come in the room, feel free to do that. But there was some comments out here where some folks ask, how do you know so many intimate details about case files that are supposed to be private between the person who was convicted as well as the defendant or person?
They were gotten a hold of by the cult from Josh. I got sufficient. His story on the other side, and then there were other things that were gathered from other sources, including Rob Reed, who leaked things into the ether.
Okay. So you had brought up Will Kincaid into the discussion. You said that he had some kind of intimate details of the actual case.
And he's offered certain people direct access to see certain things if they have specific challenges on specific information.
And you trust what Will Kincaid says?
I certainly do. He's my best friend. And he hasn't shown any dishonesty in this at all, really. And he's made himself open, to engagement on this with anyone that wanted. Just no one wants to. They just want to keep their narrative going.
Do you think that one of the reasons why people hold on to this narrative, a lot of the Christian community, because your best friend, Will Kincaid, actually told people you were Josh? In Raging Atheist channel?
Never happened. No, never happened.
He was talking to Raging Atheist on a live video and actually said who you were.
You have a clip?
Well, let's take a look at the Raging Atheist channel, and we can get into that. If you recall, this was around the time that he was dropping people's docs, including Raging Atheist. Hold on.
Hey, Josh, do you remember telling me that there wasn't a rape kit done in the court case? How do you know that?
I just told you the information was leaked to us and given to us from several different sources, including Rob Reed and also from Josh himself to the cult. So information is there.
So you
has the whole file.
Well, no, see, the thing is that it wouldn't be included in the information. The only people that would know whether a rape kit was done is the victim and any suspect.
You're saying a rape
involved.
kit wouldn't be part of a discovery file?
It would if it was directly requested, but no, that's not something that that's medical. You would literally have to.
No,
you have what's known as.
Are you a lawyer?
No, but I know a few things
all
about the
evidence
law.
has to be provided. All evidence has to be provided in discovery. You can't keep anything back. It all has to be provided. And all the discovery information has been gathered, not only from Rob Reed's side, but also from technical sides of those involved. So it's all there.
The only people.
The thing is, Dustin, you don't have any
the only people who would know whether a rape kit was done is the victim and the suspect.
And anyone that read the discovery file.
If there's a discovery.
How would there not be if there's a do you know what discovery is?
I know exactly what discovery is.
Okay, what is
Josh.
it? What is it?
It's full disclosure. The prosecutor is not allowed any
full
surprises.
Disclosure of all evidence, right? Which you have to get before the trial.
Did you do a Brady request?
Which you have to get before.
Did you do a Brady request?
A Brady request for what? You're a party to the trial.
For exculpatory evidence, dipshit.
What do you? I don't know what you're talking about, Dustin.
Yeah, I know you don't know what I'm talking about.
There's information that was collected in discovery. I don't. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go ahead, TTOR, enlighten us.
Guys.
How would a rape kit exist? Wait, how would a rape kit exist 10 years after the fact, Dustin? How would that exist?
There would be a rape kit done if there was a rape. See that? What you don't understand?
How would you do that
what you don't understand?
The file says it wasn't claimed until 10 years.
Are you going to let me speak? Yeah, a rape kit can be done. A rape kit can be done on clothing after the fact.
Okay,
I think you know that.
Okay, well, do you have evidence of any of that existing, or you're just?
No, I don't have access to the case file, but you said it was leaked.
Well, then where is it? Where is?
But no, see the thing that damns you on this, the thing that damns you on this is that you claim to have prior knowledge, right? And you have provided nothing in the way of court case files, have you?
The file was leaked.
Have you provided it?
Will Kincaid has it. It's not been unseen.
Have you provided it?
Me? I don't provide anything. I don't have anything.
Oh, interesting.
This was provided to the cult, and I'm telling you, you see, your argument is so dumb, Dustin.
It's really not. How would you know that? How would you know? How would you know if a rape kit was done or not?
So Dustin actually did something pretty interesting when he came in here. He called you Josh, and you answered immediately.
No, I think he does it too. I've always done that.
Huh,
buddy, look,
you are Joshua Nathan call me whatever you want. I don't even respond to it anymore. Thickie's done it for years.
I don't.
Call me Smokey.
Buddy, look, you told me that there was no rape kit done.
I'm sick of, by the way, I'm sick of that thing where people come in and do that. Call me Josh, and then every single time I have to be like, I'm not Josh. Not Josh. I'm not, and they just keep calling me that. And then the one time I don't say it, then we got some ortho fag coming in to make a thing out of it. That's really great, dude. Yeah, good.
Well, just remember that God sees all.
Why don't you pay attention to the rest of the
such Christ-like behavior, Smokey? Congratulations,
bro.
So he is what he is.
Do you know what a Brady request is? TTOR.
Wait a minute. Is this a debate like between me and TTOR, or is this just everyone comes in and cross-examines?
You invited people in the room, douchebag.
Hold on, guys. Listen.
See, this is now going to turn into just a bunch of tag team.
No, Smokey. I ask you, do you want to?
I'm the one coming over here willing to do cross-examination, and you're just going to want to level bullshit, and then you don't even want to listen to the answers.
Told me to let
Dustin
people
wants to over-talk about how a rape kit can exist over a decade after the fact that he's never seen, but it must be there. Because otherwise there wouldn't be a claim of rape, and he's not a lawyer.
I didn't claim that it must be anywhere, Josh. You're putting words in my mouth. I asked you if there was
stop
one.
Calling me Josh, because apparently ortho queer down there's going to make a thing of it. So again, I'm not Josh. So you can keep calling.
What is your real name then, Smokey Saint? Like as Carl. All right, I'll call you Carl.
The mouth is full of.
Okay, so what? So TTR has no retorts to any of my points. Is this what I take from this, or what? Are we just?
I'm not sure you made a point in all of that rambling, Carl. You said
I do.
You said
Dustin, hold on, Dustin. I do have a retort.
Okay.
Because as much as Smokey Saint has basically proclaimed the innocence of Joshua Nathan Marks Bell, which he still hasn't proved that he's not Josh. But
I don't need to prove that. You need to prove I am. I don't need to prove anything to you. You need to prove
you claim that you're not. You claim you're not.
I don't need to prove that. I don't need to prove anything. You guys just make assertions. All you've done this entire time is make assertions. Why is her story believable? Why?
Anyway, the retort I have.
Evidence has ever been provided by anyone?
Okay, yeah, you're going to be muted for a sec. So anyway, my retort is.
You mute me again. I'm leaving.
Okay, well, are you gonna let me finish my point because I never got to it? The common thing we see with people who are convicted pedophiles or convicted of the crimes that we're talking about here is that most of the time they will proclaim their innocence either with "I never did the act" or "I did the act, but there was nothing wrong with it," and they just don't understand. And they also frequently talk about how the courts and the government railroaded them with their conviction. Case in point, we got Chris Jones, the friend of Kent Hovind, who I exposed 3 years ago in a completely different expose series. He claims that he never did molest those kids, and that he was just the victim of the government because of exposés he did on Bohemian Grove. So when I hear you go on this wild, wild story about how corrupt the government is and how really I shouldn't be trusting anything they say regarding the conviction of Joshua Nathan Marks Herbal, who, by the way, pled guilty. He didn't plead not guilty and then get railroaded because then he'd have a leg to stand on. No, he pled guilty to the crime. Normal people know that when you plead guilty to a crime, you are admitting guilt, and evidence of innocence is irrelevant because you didn't plead not guilty. You pled guilty. So everything you've been saying about the corrupt government system towards Joshua Nathan Marks Herbal is bullcrap. It doesn't matter because he pled guilty.
Are you familiar with the Innocence Project?
And why would this even be part of your defense?
Can I talk to the person I was actually here to debate? Can Ortho Queer shut his mouth for a minute while I talk to the person?
Guys. Yeah, in fact, I'm just gonna peace out. But just remember, God sees all.
Yeah, later, later, idiot.
All right, guys, let's continue the retorts. Let's Smokey.
The Innocence Project came up. Yeah, the Innocence Project came up in the comments section. But please,
so when the Innocence Project finds someone vindicated and exonerated, were they guilty?
You know of the Innocence Project, but you don't know what a Brady request is?
Dustin, I'm not actually engaging with you right now. I'm trying to get to somewhere with TTOR. I don't care about your Brady request is to get information on a sealed file, which you wouldn't have to do if you're a party to the file in discovery. You're a moron.
It has nothing to do with sealed files. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with exculpatory evidence, dipshit.
Okay, well, any exculpatory evidence would have been filed to be retrieved in discovery, and he had a lawyer, so I'm sure that was done. I don't know specifically. If you want to know, go ask Will Kincaid. There is no rape kit. Nothing in the file was ever shown for that. Rob Reed, who even claims that a lot of this was true, never even mentioned anything about a rape kit, and nothing has ever been mentioned about the existence of a rape kit until you said it. So there is nothing there. Never did exist, and this is just some random claim of some chick over a decade after the fact. And it's weird for you to think that she just knew what clothes she was wearing and kept them for 10 fucking years in her closet, just for this one day.
It depends on when the report was made. Like I said, I don't have any
10 years after over a decade after.
Yeah, see, I don't consider you as an unbiased source. I know what you're saying.
The information they keep pulling. Go look at the information. You don't have to take my word for it. Go look at it and then go explain to me why they're actually 7 years age difference and it reads that they're 8. You can explain that to me why it's so blatantly false on the surface as to why you should believe it when it can't even be, truthful.
What was it? 10 years difference you were saying, and there was an 8 to 13?
They are actually 7 years difference, actually in real life, in actual reality, and the report says they're 8. So why did that happen? Maybe because she
big deal
at different times that they couldn't
see. That's the kind of thing you might have found out with a Brady request.
Also, she was born in, or just having the discovery file, or just doing some sleuthing with the things that she released on the public platforms when she was doing her interviews, which she said a lot. Her mother even doxed her. And of course, people were able to sleuth that out because she called her mother and her mother called her out by name, and that turned into a whole thing. But I don't want to get into that. That's a whole scenario. But you're the only one mentioning.
See, the reason there's a reason for that though, Smokey. There's this thing called DNA evidence. There's this thing. Look. What they're saying is you took lewd liberties with a minor. What they're saying is you took lewd.
If there was DNA evidence, and by the way, I don't even know why I'm engaging with you because I kind of want to finish my thing with TTOR. You butt in again. But why do you think there's evidence that you've never seen and don't know exists? Why do you think that?
That doesn't make any sense. That makes zero sense. There's always evidence that I don't know exists and have not seen.
Wait a minute.
Dear God in heaven. Okay.
Did you not say that there would have to be a rape kit for this?
No, I did not say that. I asked you if there was a rape kit. Okay, and I was explaining that if a rape kit, and if you would let me finish, a rape kit would link you by DNA. This is the reason I was asking. Now, if there was a rape kit done and your DNA did not match, what I would be giving you there is an alibi.
No kidding. That would be a great way.
Oh, yeah, that would be a real good alibi, which is why I was asking. Which is why I was asking about a Brady request.
So
and you could do a Brady request under the auspices of being slanderized. And you can end this whole debate by simply standing up in the same court that this individual was convicted in and asking the judge to clarify the record. Therefore, it could be a declaration, an order of the court.
You don't know how.
What do you mean? What do you mean? It could be done by affidavit. You just have to have him sign it.
No.
Yes, absolutely, you dipshit. Yes.
No, in order to take the plea, you cannot correct any of the facts, even when you prove they're
no,
false.
No. You didn't take the plea. According to you, you didn't take the plea.
Even when you prove them, wrong. So even
you didn't take the plea. You're not Josh.
Even if he proved him wrong. Well, you're not listening, Dustin. You're just.
I don't have to listen. I'm making a point about identification.
Can we get rid of him? Can we get rid of him? He has nothing.
Dustin, just take a breather, all right? We'll let you back up in a little while.
He's talking about things that don't exist, and then he's puzzled that they don't exist. I don't know how to help him.
Dustin, I understand the passion and anger, but we got to let the two have the conversation. Please, Dustin, all right?
Can we get back to like where I was with TTOR? Now I don't even remember where it was. Can
you were talking about the Innocence Project, but you did not explain how this is relevant to the case of Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell, i.e. you.
Okay, say that again. I'm sorry that you broke up there a little.
How does bringing up the Innocence Project relate to?
Oh, right, yeah. It shows that people are convicted and take pleas with no evidence against them. That's what it shows.
Has there been one done on behalf of you?
Not yet. Not yet for Josh.
You don't need to do it for Josh. You just need to do it under the auspices of being slanderized.
Can you? Okay, here's the thing. I want to engage with TTOR because this is who I was here for. You can boot Dustin because he's just going to keep interjecting while I'm trying to get through this with TTOR because this is the person.
Let's give
So you can.
Let's give Dustin a break in the back room.
Dustin can come in and talk with me about this later. I'm not here for Dustin. Okay, and especially if Dustin is so stupid to be making claims about things he's expecting to be there or thinks should be there but aren't there, or doesn't know how they could be there, or who could know they're not there, and whether or not it would show up in a discovery file. And of course it would. Any information, including exculpatory information, is required to be provided to the other side. And everyone even just knows this. Basically, even Rob Reed has said this on several occasions. So it's just dumb. This entire point is ridiculous to claim that there's something at what they just hid. You know, the rape report, the rape kit report, you know, from the file. It was there. They just didn't share it. Like, whatever. No, there was never any rape kit. There was nothing. There was never anything in the file. And even Rob Reed has confirmed that, who, of course, supposedly has the whole file, yet doesn't ever still to this day provide any evidence that any of it was true. Did I get to the point of the matter, or did we... the Innocence Project. The point is that people will plead guilty sometimes when they're coerced into it. When they have the chance that they're not going to get a fair trial, and that maybe they're in a situation where they're going to be required to prove their innocence, just like basically I've been here today and all over the internet.
Have you contacted them yet?
Of evidence, who contacted who? What?
Have you contacted the Innocence Project about your case?
Josh has not contacted the Innocence Project yet. No. He's about to. Actually, in fact, a couple people in his family are actually helping him with that right now to contact. The problem is lawyers sometimes don't like to touch this, and the Innocence Project has hundreds, actually probably at this point thousands of files to get through, and they deal with what they can, you know, when they can do it. But he is compiling, as far as I know, some stuff to deal with that right now. The idea was actually to, as far as I know, that was communicated to the cult. He was going to sue Satori, but no one was willing to take the case because of the status. Like, she was at the status of a victim, he had the status of the offender, so they weren't willing to even look at the case or consider it. So the claim of, you know, suing for defamation not only would be expensive, probably fruitless, because likely she doesn't really have anything. And then also, you know, on top of that, it's not really going to get you, you know, really anything out of it at all. If anything, you could have something, a piece of paper to wave around that, look, she was caught lying and proven in court, but that's really all you'd get. And it won't really do anything for the state of the evil and the pain that's been caused through it, through lies and perjury. So
we have people backstage,
so what you're saying,
but I'm not going to allow anybody up into the conversation until Smokey and TTOR both agree that that's what they want. Is that fair for you both?
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I came here for one thing. I didn't come here necessarily for a whole bunch of like interjection. I was fine with answering questions. Like if we were done with TTR, I didn't really have any retorts to anything I said, then that was fine. But like this thing where I'm engaging with TTR and they're jumping in to interject and hijack, that's just ganging up on me instead of allowing me to actually address situations or instances as they're professed. So that's all I request, just one at a time.
All right, TTOR, do you have a retort?
Well, I asked several questions in response. I'm open at this point to having other community members jump into the stream and interact with us.
So you have no retort to any of those things I said about your moral bankruptcy, about your lack of Christian judgment, taking one witness instead of two witnesses, having no evidence to really back up her story or her narrative was true, and yet still believing it, and yet doubting everything that comes from the other side. You have no retort to any of that. Any of that stuff I said, none.
All of those are arbitrary claims. There's no substance to it.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, what is your epistemological warrant exactly? TTOR.
That's not relevant. That's not relevant to what I talked about.
Do you believe
tonight.
Truth is established by two or more witnesses? Yes or no? Is that a biblical standard of judgment? Yes or no?
That's not relevant to the topic tonight.
Amazing.
All right.
Well, you fail on the topic right away, too. By the way,
may I suggest something that could actually
pedophile, which I explained.
Can I suggest something that would actually help you, Smokey? Is there
fail even on your own stupid title of the debate?
Okay. So is there any
you
way...
say that, but
well, you did. It's not even a thing, you idiot.
Guys, I got a suggestion. There's two ways that you could actually get out of this, Smokey. One way is to show an ID but cover up all the other information, just show the name. Second is, since you know the supposed other Josh, you could actually have him on your show, right? You could host him.
If he ever wanted to, he doesn't.
Well, tell him. I mean, he sounds like a wonderful guy. Tell him
it shouldn't matter. You guys are requiring evidence of innocence, or
just let him know the system's
you don't have any evidence
too, and you need help with this.
You don't have any evidence of the narrative. I don't need to help you guys defeat your own narrative that you don't have any evidence for. It's dumb to even ask for it.
But you've already said that you know the guy personally.
Your case irrelevant. That's irrelevant. He's not forced to do anything. And by the way, I'll address something a long time ago about why you guys are terrorists. Because TTOR can't seem to get it. TTORs can't seem to understand.
So you're admitting that you did call us terrorists
Absolutely,
3 years ago
after
you previously claimed that you didn't.
No,
so were you lying then or lying
now? I forgot about it clearly, but now I do remember, and I know why. It's because of shit like this. The type of stuff that's even in the side chat. Just dox yourself. Just give in to the terrorism of us claiming you're this person and labeling you this horrible thing. Just give in. Just do what we want, and it'll go away. That's terrorism. That's labeling and slandering with no good arguments and no justifications and demanding someone act in a certain way to satiate you. When you have no justification for even the slander you started with and no evidence for it, and you demand proof to the contrary. You don't even have any proof or evidence that the first thing was true.
Smokey, I'm trying to actually help you. If you just showed an ID and covered things up, or you had this person that you know intimately named Josh just come on the show and say, "Look, I got screwed by the system."
I'm in favor of the second one.
I'm going to stick with you guys. Have no evidence, never have, and you're just reaching at straws, and you never really did. And even TTR's own arguments are garbage. He doesn't even
Justin. Don't trust your lying eyes. Yeah,
well, don't trust your garbage epistemology. Is what I would say.
Don't trust the video footage. Don't trust the pictures. Don't trust the fact that Kenny Rhodes is there.
My retort.
Don't trust any of it, Justin.
You're
just a total moron, Justin. Don't trust anything.
You are a moron.
Sum it up?
You really are a moron, and you don't even use biblical standards of judgment, which means you're a hypocrite.
Sure.
And you're a liar.
Whatever you say.
And you're a garbage fraud of the faith. You don't have any Christian
so
use Christian morality.
So admitting to getting blowjobs from effeminate men when you're bored is godly, but me just pointing out that you're a
17 years ago. Why are you bringing that up? You think I'm currently gay?
You brought it up on the internet.
Okay, that was 17 years ago. So what? What does that do for anyone or anything? Who cares? Why do you care about that? Am I getting blowjobs now, TTOR? Am I admitting to getting blowjobs now? Am I going out to the gay bars? Am I telling stories now, all proud of it? Or did I tell a story from 17 freaking years ago? Why even bring it up? And by the way, if Josh is clearly not guilty of the narrative, which he isn't, because all the information the narrative was false is there. You just ignore it.
You're getting awfully emotional for not being Josh.
Maybe I'm getting emotional because you're a lying, slandering, snot-nosed little sniveling rodent. And all you do is ignore evidence and hand wave away the things that show the narrative you adopted is false. And you're so prideful and so evil in your heart that you just will not even give a
rejection.
Well, you won't give a reasonable doubt, TTOR, and the system is supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't think you showed that today. I don't think you showed anything beyond a reasonable doubt. I think you just made a bunch of conjecture and said, well, it kind of looks like it. And I have no evidence to show this was the case. And all the details I mentioned
not
wrong.
Kinda.
What did you say? Josh didn't have an attorney? Where'd you get that? Literally, factually untrue. Even Rob Reed knows that. Oh, really? So maybe you just don't know how to read the court documents you're claiming to believe. Because he did
under
have
the category of
and even
attorney,
Rob Reed
it said
confirms he had an attorney. Everyone knows he had
under
an attorney.
the category of attorney, it said self. Unless there's a guy whose last name is Self.
Okay, well, where was that from?
Self-representation.
Okay, what document are you referencing? What document?
It's a document from the courthouse that you went to.
What court? What courthouse? What document? What is it? What does it say?
Hey, you know the facts of Josh's case so
well, no, you're the one claiming
you should
to know.
what the name of the courthouse is.
You're the one claiming to know. Even Rob Reed knows he had a lawyer. Why don't you know that? Because you don't know anything. You really don't even know anything you're reading. You're clueless. You don't know anything about the case. You don't know anything about the details. You have no evidence for the narrative that was given. And she even has provably lied. You don't even answer the fact that she was blatantly lying in multiple instances. These aren't even the ones from the actual case file that were shared, that she lied through her teeth. And all that information that was put out, that every event that she mentioned, that she made reference to, happened years after she claimed it did. And no one paid attention to that. You just want to run with her narrative. You just like her narrative.
No,
and you have no evidence.
I don't really care about her one way or the other.
Well, clearly you do, because clearly she's very believable, even though she's been caught in blatant lies. And you still believe it. You believe it even now, because the government told you to with no evidence. Is there anything else the government tells you with no evidence to believe that you believe, TTOR? Or are you just another hypocrite?
Once again, you're getting awfally emotional for someone who was not Joshua Nathan Mark Bell.
Well, you're awfully stupid, not able to answer any of your slander. That's what I'll say. You can say I'm awfully emotional, but you know what? Maybe I am emotional about a retard like you calling me a pedophile with no real justice.
Very Christ-like, by the way.
Maybe that. Well, no, you're being real evil, and I'm calling you what you are, TTOR. You are a rodent.
Okay,
you are a spineless, cowardly rodent, and that's why I had to come over here to do this.
You know, you said I was a coward who wouldn't face you directly. Well, here I am.
On your channel, in your environment, because you wouldn't come to mine.
This is actually the second time. Well, we would be on Brett's channel right now if YouTube hadn't screwed him over.
Well, great. Well,
that would be another third-party platform.
And now I'm in an adverse environment with a bunch of degenerates to come and challenge me. And you've made
you got to speak uninterrupted for a long time.
Yeah, so did you. I didn't know we had 20-minute openings. Someone should have told me that. I would have prepped for that. I mean, really, you just repeated yourself with the same garbage epistemology over and over. You don't even follow basic logic, TTOR.
Oh, you don't like the format we chose.
You have not answered a single one of my retorts at all. And all you've done is ask a couple questions, which
you brought up a bunch of stuff about government and epistemology that I do not believe in.
Why do you believe her narrative? Why? Why do you believe it? Crickets?
What do you mean, why do
you believe her narrative is true? It's a simple question.
Yeah. Casting doubt on the victim's testimony, just like Kenny Rhodes did.
You can't answer. You absolutely can't answer. You have no epistemological warrant to believe a word she said. You know it. So you're just clinging on.
Epistemology has nothing to do with it.
It does. What is epistemology? What is epistemology, TTOR? What is it?
It's irrelevant to this discussion.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't even know
things okay,
you really are an idiot.
Yeah, you need to be quiet for a bit. As a matter of fact, if you keep doing this, Smokey, I'm
Okay,
just
you know
going
what?
to
You're a
kick you.
fucking clown. I'm gone. Fuck
All
you,
right.
TTOR.
So shall I bring some people up in here or what?
Yep.
You guys agreeable on that?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. We got Dustin. Let's bring him back. Dustin, you don't have to apologize. I understand you're very passionate. It's a very serious topic. We got somebody called Bruce. We've got a lot of people backstage. So, John, what's your view on all this, as well as Bruce?
I would like Smokey to come back. I have a question for him, and I think it will resolve a lot of things. And it is frustrating that he left, especially when he treats people like crap, like he does.
He just ratted himself out. He said, "I am the first person to bring up a rape kit." And then he turns around and says that Rob Reed already confirmed there was no rape kit.
Josh, come on back in. I got Smokey, come back in. Come on, man. Come on back in. I do have a question for you. I've put this off for a long time, and I'm tired of everything I heard tonight. Look, I think you treat people like garbage. That's my issue with you. But you've been on here tonight telling people you're not this guy, and you got your buddy Ryan constantly sticking up for you. So I'm going to use what Ryan told me. If you will come back in.
We're talking about Ryan the Presbyterian, right?
Yes. He and this is something I want to talk with Smokey about. He'll know what the issue is. And this goes way back early on, because Ryan is the one who told me what his name is way early on. So come on, Smokey, come back in. Let's just take care of it and get it done.
Bruce is telling the truth. Ryan actually told me as well.
Yes, he did. And I don't know if the same thing happened to you as it did me, but instead of Herbell, it was Herdell with a D, because that's what he heard on an answering machine. And that's how he heard it. He got the one syllable, the one letter off. And, that was really early on. And I asked Josh about it. Well, I'm calling him Josh just because, that's comes to mind after tonight hearing his name over and over. But I asked him about it, and there's an issue, obviously, and I'm sure he remembers that. So anyhow, we could address that. I don't really care who the heck he is, Like I said, he just treats people like crap. That's my issue here on YouTube, not this stuff. But to sit here and listen to him go on and on and on saying it's not him and talk like in third person for this Josh guy, it's irritating.
See, I don't understand. It was about a year ago, Ryan absolutely hated Smokey and Kenny Rhodes, right? Absolutely hated them. And now he's doing the buddy thing. I don't know what that's all about, but man, they said some pretty terrible things about each other for sure.
Yeah, I still remember when Kenny Rhodes went on video and actually threatened to come beat Ryan up at his house and was trying to contact his church so that he could see where Ryan lived. I mean, that was pretty extreme stuff going on back then. So,
Ryan's the master.
Smokey and Miss Smokey, if you're listening, the reason why a lot of people have all this information and know the things they do is because of the very people you hang out with in your room, the people you're calling your buddies.
Well, he's attacking the SDA guy, Jamie, now. So apparently that's okay, just so he's doing their dirty work,
Now, TTOR, if you don't mind, can you explain to people that you weren't even dealing with Smokey? You had no interest in him whatsoever. You were actually hanging out in a room, and he initiated the attack on you first, correct? Or am I wrong?
Correct. No, that's correct. Because I was around in 2022 when all this stuff first came out, but I didn't really participate much in that debate other than having my video about Kenny Rhodes trying to normalize pedophilia in the aftermath of that. But then I let that go. I focused on other content for years. And then about a month ago, I was in a live stream with Gangster Ghost, thinking I was just going to have a chill live stream where we talked about entertainment stuff. I never thought in a million years that Smokey Saint was going to show up in the chat and then come into the room a couple minutes later. And so I wasn't fully prepared to present evidence of Smokey Saint being a convicted pedo at the time, because I didn't wake up that morning or wake up at any morning prior to that thinking I was going to see him again, much less face off against him directly. And so I did that stream. Go ahead. Oh, well, I did that stream, and I made my follow-up video, and then he started leaving comments on your live streams, Brett, about me, as well as insulting you. And then he eventually started coming after me on my YouTube community post, ironically on a topic that wasn't about him at all. And then that's what led to this.
Now,
but I did not seek him out.
You probably know this. My first interaction with Smokey whenever he returned was I actually went over to his text and everything, and I seen that he was live, and I heard people saying that he got married to Miss Smokey and there was a kid on the way or something like that. And I said, congrats. I was nice. And then I went on my way after saying a couple comments like hello to folks and all that. I had no interest in him whatsoever. But he started making videos and leaving posts like, I'm a fat corpse and he hopes that my fat heart dies and all this. Now, this didn't change the fact that when I'm moderating, I always remain neutral and try to stay chill and let everybody have their word and all that. But I want to let everybody know something. For those who don't know TTOR, there's a lot of Christians in the community that know him. TTOR does not initiate attacks on people. He does not call people names. You have to do something really seriously terrible like Smokey does in order to get him riled up. He does not make live streams where he ever calls people cockroaches or demons or you're going to F and burn in hell and all that. I'm just telling you from my own personal experience, as well as the majority of the community. If you watch any of TTOR's videos, he doesn't have, you can't find 3 times where he cusses. He doesn't even cuss, folks. And I've been trying to work on him on that.
I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet he's cursed at me at least once.
What do you think, TTOR? Have you cussed him out at least once?
I don't remember doing that. If I did, I apologize.
No need for apology, TTOR. If you did, I probably deserved it.
Brett is right. Brett is right, though. I rarely ever cuss in my personal life, and I almost never have on videos before. It's just not my thing. I try to focus on facts, evidence, logic, reason. And even after my run-in with Smokey Saint a month ago on the Gangster Ghost channel, and even after the back and forth I had with him briefly with my most recent uploads, this live stream would not have happened if he hadn't been calling for it. He's the one that wanted this night to happen. He's the one who sought me out. If he had just left me alone, I would have been content to go on my merry way after the last video or two I made about
it. Speaking of cussing, do you mind if it's a test quiz. I'll just ramble off some cuss words and tell me what comes to mind. Is that okay?
Oh, come on.
Okay. Well, okay. No. It's okay. Oh, you'll understand. Let me just throw these words out. People can type in the chat. Just tell me what comes to mind.
So this is like you throw out words and then I just say what comes to my mind?
Yeah, okay, I'll just say whore, bitch, slut, cunt. Who comes to mind?
Smokey Saint.
There we go. Isn't that a shame? That's a shame, but it's true.
My first
TTOR.
My first thought is actually Hillary Clinton.
Oh, okay. That's acceptable answer. Okay, TTOR question. Okay, have you run facial recognition software to identify that the person in these photos are in fact the same person?
I have not, no.
That's something we should look into. Because he can't refute that.
TTOR, you got to be careful who you allow up like that if you don't know who they are. You don't want to get porn bombed. Just saying, brother. Just saying. It is a pretty feisty chat.
So, a Forerunner's story. Who are you?
I'm David. Nice to meet you, man.
Likewise. What is your worldview and what is your thoughts on tonight?
I don't know what you mean by worldview. Can you expand on that?
Like, are you a Christian? Are you an atheist or an agnostic? Are you a Muslim? That kind of thing.
Oh, I'm a Christian, and I've known Smokey since 2018. I've been around Bruce and Smokey before, and I see Smokey as a bit of a narcissist, and I've seen this stuff going on for a while. And like I said in the chat, what he said, just like he knows way too much about the case, and he spent way too much time trying to prove the innocence. I don't know, but like Bruce said, the problem I have with him is that he's narcissistic and he's very hateful, and he tries to shame people and say they're not Christian, but the way he acts isn't Christ-like at all.
Right. You sound like Lupin.
And that's totally what I think too. I mean, let's throw out the whole convicted pedo thing. Even if that wasn't a thing for Smokey Saint, I'd still have the same opinion about him because of his narcissism, because of his just downright filthy language and the horrible way he treats anyone who disagrees with him. You don't need to be a convicted pedo to be that way. He's just got that going alongside that problem. Well, but he's a horrible, horrible narcissist. And you can see on the live stream tonight, just with the way he rambled on, and the way every other paragraph he would basically attack me personally. That's what a narcissist does.
Yeah, like even the scripture, someone who's a railer did not have anything to do with them, even if they're just a railer. I mean, anyone with the Holy Spirit would separate themselves from a person like that.
When you think like a relatively normal person, if they got angry and called a woman the things that I just said, would say they're sorry or something, like they'd at least apologize, you'd think, or they wouldn't say it at all. But I mean, I've heard that kind of thing said to women quite a few times, and he just doesn't seem to care.
I'm having a hard time understanding somebody who shows up to a debate under the understanding that they didn't have to prove anything at all.
One of the things I'm wondering, though, Dustin and Bruce, I don't know if you caught it as well as TTOR, but he seemed very angry at the girl who was violated, and he seemed to think that he knew so much about how her mind works and how her brain works that she couldn't possibly be telling the truth. Now, how would he have any kind of inclination or blues clues or understanding of this if that was the case? And News Unit, I need to let you know, I was the one that put you out because I've heard you actually laugh at people about their children dying, and you've threatened to end people's lives. We don't want to violate terms of service and get Brother TTOR in some kind of trouble. So if you're worried about getting kicked, that was me, and I have no remorse over it. TTOR, I hope you don't have any issue with that. I just wanted to protect your stream.
No, thank you.
I apologize for doing the Smokey cussing. If that offended anybody. It's just sad, though. It is a shame.
I didn't hear cussing. I heard you say Smokey Saint over and over and over again. I was like, "What? Wait, what?" I didn't hear no cussing.
Okay, I get it. That's funny.
Just real quick, I want to say something to News Unit. I've seen what you look like. I know what you sound like. I've heard all the recordings of your threats and all that. I'm 6'5", 250 pounds of pure sexual erotic power. You don't make me nervous, sir. Move along. Go ahead.
And I'm the same size too, so don't think about doing it to me either.
You're 250. You look a lot slimmer than me.
I'm actually about 265, 270, but
really? Wow. Well, I haven't been on a scale in a while.
Now, when I was in,
they always scream when I step on them, so I stay away from them.
Yeah, well, when I was a in-shape basketball player, when I was in my 20s, I was about 235 pounds. So I have put on some weight, but I'm tall and I got long arms, so I don't look bigger than I actually am. I have all that length and frame to stretch my weight out over, so I don't.
We have entire recordings of their voice. We can do AI analysis and compare them to see if the frequencies are the same. We have pictures of their faces. We can do cross-reference analysis.
We need himself if he was innocent, though, Dustin. He could have just showed the ID, or he could have just simply had his buddy, supposedly his doppelganger or the Mandela effect guy that he pulled out of the multiverse and do a damn show with him.
He wouldn't have needed to show his ID. He just would have had to show his birth certificate. That would have been
I like the idea of him bringing Joshua on if Joshua's really a different person. Because if they're both on the screen at the same time, then he would have all of the credibility in the world. His refusal to do so is telling.
Do you mind if I ask you guys a question, get your opinion on something?
Sure.
If say Smokey treated people in a different manner, say he was more respectful of other people, do you think we'd even be here discussing this issue? If
You're Bruce, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I wondered why you were telling me to shut up.
I thought you were somebody else. Never mind.
But if he treated people differently, I myself would not have even gotten involved in this tonight. You know, honestly, I wouldn't. And I wonder if other people would be different too if he actually came back and treated people differently.
I do think,
Amen.
I'll be honest with you, Bruce. I personally think things would have been a lot better for him if he wasn't so terrible. 90% of the Christian community can't stand him. And as far as this goes, let's say he was really nice and he was a complete and utter sweetheart, owned a poodle and everything, and he still was charged with this. If he would just get up on video and say, look, it's me, and I have tried to change and do something with my life. I'm sure some people will hold it against him, but others would forgive.
Right.
I really believe some would actually forgive him. But he's
not. God's
he's
working on me, this,
controlling.
that, whatever, and that's then, this is now. I mean, I kind of get some of that, but usually it's with an attitude, and then he's cussing people out, which I get he's pissed off over all this, but when I just see somebody disagrees with him or his attitude or something, next thing you know, he's cussing them out and tearing them up and thrashing people all over the place. I go, like, what the heck? I mean, of course people aren't going to like him, you know?
I'm totally with you, Bruce, on the whole concept of if Smokey Saint was a much nicer person, he wouldn't get the hate he does. None of my videos about him in the last month would exist if he was a repentant man who actually treated people right, or at least tried to. I would have left him alone. But the fact of the matter is, he did not leave me alone. He challenged me over the claim of him being a convicted pedophile, and he just kept coming, kept being nasty. So everything that happened in the last month between me and him is all on him. But I will say, if he did come out and say, you know what, you're right, guys, that was me. I'm sorry I did that. And I'm really trying to be different than I used to be. And I'm a work in progress. And I just hope you guys can forgive me while I'm on this journey of sanctification. If he did something like that, something along that line,
it would be over for that man.
Him alone.
It would be over.
Leave him alone.
You would.
Yeah, it would be over.
But it would be
over.
It would be over for that.
I just want to say that.
Yeah, he would still get some hate from some people, but people like me would leave him alone. That's what I'm saying.
There's also another thing, too. The reason why we're even having this show is because he pleaded for it to happen. TTOR and I had no interest in doing this.
He came to his own barbecue and he didn't like the flavor.
Yeah. So we didn't go, hey, chicken, hey, boo-boo, you better come in here or you're a coward. No, that was his words towards us. So here we are.
He accused me of being a coward. Yeah.
He built his own execution chair and sat in it. That's his problem, not mine.
Yep.
I just want to say that video that you shared of Josh in the live stream, there was another channel that Smokey went live on and actually showed his face. Bruce knows the guy, the Pandas and Aliens and Hot Wheels guy. Bruce, you know who that is? Remember his name?
Well, he was on
Bruce.
Sister Sunshines. He was on that.
He showed his face. That live stream that you showed of the Josh guy, I actually did an AI facial recognition with that when he showed his face on Sister Sunshine. It was like a 79.9% probability, but it was inconclusive.
Well, that's because back then he used to wear that hat and he would hide his eyes and part of the top part of his face.
Yeah, but it was still
that's usually a pixel resolution issue. If you go back and re-enhance the picture, you might get better identification points.
Possibly.
So the link is
it could be.
Anybody else wants to come in and share their views or ideas on this?
It's being mentioned in the side chat. But, you know, he does now show his face on all his streams. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I started off talking about today, too, is I showed a 45-second clip of one of his most recent streams just to establish that, you know, this is what he looks like. This is how he talks. This is what he sounds like. You know, he's on a webcam now, which he wasn't 3 years ago. So.
Yeah. My suggestion for Smokey, if he's listening, he needs, if you really want to carry on doing live shows and do the Christian bit, you're going to have repentance. If you don't do that and you don't ask God for forgiveness and be honest, then nobody's going to take you seriously on what you're doing. You're your own worst enemy. You need to fix that. And that's all I got to say about that.
I mean, this is the simplest thing in the world to fix, man. Go to the court, file a motion before the judge to have your identification clarified. Once you have it in an order form, submit it in an affidavit, notarize it, and then shove it up everybody's rear end. It's not hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I treat other people the way you'd want to be treated, and people probably let this stuff go, in my opinion. To some degree. I mean, I realize none of us, you know, we're all going to screw up. But, I mean, if you treat people like crap, you're going to cop an attitude like this.
Yep. And that's the point I've been making every chance I can in a live stream or somewhere else. The way Smokey Saint treats people alone proves that he is, well, a really horrible narcissist, and he doesn't display fruits of the spirit, but he does display the works of the flesh. I'm convinced, based on the way he treats people alone and the way he speaks to people, that Smokey Saint is not a saved Christian. Just off of that.
The teaching is that I believe in conditionalism to a good degree. And I know that's the teaching that they teach. And that's where it's so confusing to me. How can you teach conditional salvation and then, I don't even get it. I don't know why they don't get some form of conviction, you know, somehow. Like, I don't even comprehend it.
So Bond says he's on cam every stream he hosts, referring to Smokey Saint. And I want to point out to you, Bond,
I used to watch Smokey
that is true. Now, it is true that Smokey Saint shows his cam on every stream he hosts now. But back in 2022, when all of this stuff first broke out and came out, he did not. He would always have his cartoon hooded avatar, and he would refuse to turn his webcam on, no matter how much people pushed him to.
Oh, even before that,
I used to watch him all the time. Yeah, he never used to turn his cam on. Like, I used to be really like I used to like Smokey. I used to like his teachings. Like, and then I heard that he was a pedophile, and like he's not refuting it. He's not refuting. Like, look, this isn't hard. This really isn't hard, dude. Like, all these people can't say the same thing about you and it not be true, especially from completely opposite ends and walks of life. You're trying to get people to believe that this lady made up a story and convinced all these people. It doesn't make sense, man.
But he also is not Josh, but at the same time, he has a deep, personal, intimate knowledge of Josh's mindset and the case and the victim and all of that. And he's really emotional about it. Like, you can feel the Alex Jones type of rage just coming off of him. But somehow, he's not Josh.
Medical information would not necessarily show up in an initial disclosure or even motion to discovery because of this thing called, I forgot what it is now. It protects medical information. HIPAA.
Right. Yeah, HIPAA.
Right.
Yeah,
HIPAA wouldn't allow that. Okay. I don't know why he doesn't know that. He claims like you have intimate knowledge of this case. There would have been mention of these things.
Josh leaked to us the documents. Yeah, I'm sure he did.
I'm like, what? Dude, look, this is the reason that if a rape kit wouldn't show up in evidence is because the only evidence that's allowed in a court case that you're in is evidence that works against you. This is why you need to file a Brady request, okay? Because an officer is not going to volunteer exculpatory evidence. if there's a rumor, or say like a witness was to spin a wild tale, do you think the details at that point would be relevant in any case, unless it was to prove guilt? Not to a police officer, and certainly not to the court. So if you wanted the 304s that represent the whole story, you would need to file a Brady request.
All right.
Hey,
Is
Rob,
there
what-
anybody
uh,
else out in the
this one-
comments that would like to share your opinion? If you want to, you can come in. The link is pinned as well as posted out there if anybody wants to share their views.
And I see Cheryl in the comment section said, Nicholas Whittemere knows it is him. He was his best YouTube friend and backstage live with him. I would be interested in hearing more about that personally. So if Cheryl knows that story, Cheryl can come right on in through the StreamYard link that's pinned, and we can talk more about that if you know the details.
I'd love to hear from Cheryl.
You and I, we talked to TTOR. I used to hang out with Sister Sunshine. She was one of my favorite Christians to chill with. And he actually was nice to her at first. And then whenever he started doing his own show, he brutalized her, attacked her repeatedly, did nasty, terrible things. But those who watched back in the day, they remember he used to show himself on camera. And that's that.
Do you remember, Brett? Remember when on StreamYard, when like say you're having a live show and you could join another StreamYard and everybody in your chat could talk with them? Do you remember when you could do that like a number of years ago? Well, before Smokey went away, anyhow, for a while, he was doing a stream at the same time I was, and had Sister Sunshine, and I guess there were like 2 or 3 other women that he had all cussed out like this, and told off like that. And we joined his chat, and they were all like, the only thing he could really do is laugh, because he didn't know what to do. Oh my gosh. It was funny though.
I remember that stream. That was great.
Yo, you remember that?
Oh.
I think it was hilarious. Yeah, I couldn't believe
Justice Spud predicts that Smokey Saint will be doing a deflection stream soon.
Yeah.
Well, when you do, Smokey, make sure you put my link in the description so people know where to find me.
I think I might just go join just to see what he says to me.
Well, if you want to, Dustin, it's up to you, guy. I think that TTOR is, according to the poll out there, which I agree, and I voted, it looks like a majority of people believe that Josh pretty much destroyed himself along with the assistance of TTOR.
All he did, bro, all you did was stick like a banana in the tailpipe, and you walked away laughing.
You want to know a little secret about getting someone to expose themselves? Let them talk.
Exactly.
I let Smokey talk so much tonight, and that reveals everything people needed to see. Oh, there's all kinds of videos that could be made about what he said tonight. Oh, so many.
I imagine there's going to be lots of clips. No,
well,
I don't know. Like I kind of look. Here's the thing: is like I believe in defense, right? Like I still with all this, like I mean, at best, you're still dealing with circumstantial evidence. It's compelling. It's substantial, but it's still circumstantial, right? You might get a conviction, but it might also be turned over by a higher court.
Well, he does have a very distinctive look. I mean, he's no Tom Cruise for sure. To me, he looks kind of like a realistic version of Mr. Potato Head. You don't get very many people that look like that. Very distinctive. You guys ever seen Mr. Potato Head?
We're talking about the Toy Story character or someone else?
Yeah, the Toy Story. It looks just like Mr. Potato Head. Look at the picture again. You'd be like, oh my goodness, that might be Josh.
But I'm glad to see in the comments that we managed to open someone's eyes tonight. Burning Bush's channel says, because tonight convinced me never to interact with him again. Good. Smokey Saint is not the kind of company you want to keep.
No, you don't want to keep that. I mean, Jesus, I can't believe I didn't see it before. But then again, he was never talking about himself personally. He buried himself. kind of like how some guilty people do. They'll bury themselves in the Bible.
He kept talking about Josh in the third person as if he wasn't Josh. That's why I kept saying, so how did you do that? How did you do that?
That's why I joined. That's why I Josh the third. That's why I joined the whole third person thing. I just be,
So,
as far as hanging out with him, just be careful in case he. No, never mind. Well, I mean, suppose the guy got
warned. Brandon Irish asks, how old was the girl he victimized? Well, the girl
13.
now is my age. She's 35, but when she was, molested, essentially, she was 13. She was actually an 8th grader, which I was an 8th grader and 13 years old at the time of the offense. So just thinking about that in my perspective, it's like one of my classmates getting molested by some guy at the U of O. And just the thought of that makes me go, that's gross.
You realize?
Do we know if there was actual sexual contact, or was it just lewd conversation over the internet?
Well, he had 4 counts of statutory rape against him in court.
Statutory rape is,
but those charges were dropped because he took the plea deal that says that, well, I'll just plead guilty to this lesser charge that's also a sex crime against minors, and then I won't go to jail, basically, is what he took as a plea deal. But he was facing statutory rape charges, and he was facing 25 years in a federal prison. And this is according to his own innocence list.
Don't forget the registry list. TTOR, he stays on that for how many years?
10 years. So on March 30th, 2032, if he's a good boy and he doesn't reoffend, he might actually get removed from the registry.
Can you imagine a guy out of college messing around?
Or in college.
Well, yeah, in college, or you're just getting out, whatever. Yeah, right. Could still be in college, and messing around with like a junior high kid, like it's like, oh man, no.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I could imagine it like back in like the 1800s, maybe.
Maybe the 1500s, maybe or before. So
and Brandon asked, how old was Josh? Josh was 21 at the time, according to the sex offender registry.
Whoever the heck Josh is.
Whoever the heck Josh is.
Josh
Saint, the Smokey Josh. Oh. That's too hard right there. I'm gonna call him Smokey Josh from now on.
Yeah, calling him Josh, calling him Joshua. Oh, that's a good idea. He's
Smokey
definitely living
Josh.
in denial.
Dude, I mean, look, like I don't know.
I love how Garu Lady's also living in denial, just like Smokey Saint. The girl was 16, not 13. Get your facts straight. Well, I'm sorry, but the sex offender registry says that she was 13 at the time of the offense. So smoke that.
We need to like tackle him, take some DNA, because look, that's the only way to know for sure, dude.
Yes, DNA is good, but no, we're not going to do that. Just had to throw that out there.
All he's got to do is get this all he's got to do is go to the multiverse and get that other Josh he keeps talking about and get him on the screen.
Yes, that's right. This is a multiverse episode. I forgot.
Yeah,
Mandela effect is what it is.
Oh no! Now we're jumping around in time.
You know, Thick loves that. Oh, he loves talking about that.
I don't know, man. Like I kind of, there's a part of me that kind of hopes the guy's innocent.
Ronnie Macaroni brings up an excellent point. Why don't we focus on rehabilitation? You know, that's a great idea, but Smokey Saint is in denial and he doesn't want to face who he is and what he did. So you can't rehabilitate someone who lives like that. But if he does get out of denial and he admits who he is and what he's done, then rehabilitation can take place and redemption can happen.
In general, the age group, though, at least here on this part of YouTube, it is predominantly people of age. You know, it doesn't appear to be a lot of kids, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Because of that, I don't worry about it much.
Are we talking about age-wise or mentally?
Yeah.
I just wanted a clarification on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can just hear him going off now, ranting and raving and calling everybody a bunch of this, that, and that, and whatever. Oh well, and then that the holy people. I'm
Brandon
not
Irish with the truth bomb.
You do
Sorry,
realize,
guys.
though,
Brandon Irish just dropped the truth bomb down there.
Yeah, you do realize there will be all these holy type of people. I'm not trying to be ignorant or rude, but I'm serious about this. This is what kills me with this stuff. Doxing, people who dox, people who lie, they do all this kind of stuff. Support this garbage. They will be there, all like feeling bad for them. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. Like, how does this even go on? Like, I don't get it. How do they tell people that they're not being godly? Anyhow, I think I'll stop. I can't believe it. Just unreal. All you have to do, actually, in this group, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to promote anything or anything, but I have noticed that the thing that qualifies people to be good, it seems to me, amongst some of these guys, is if they hate free grace, then they're okay. That's the only common denominator. Smokey's crowd, you know. For the most
talking
part,
about the once saved, always saved position,
right, and that. Yeah, that, and to the point of where you would call it free grace. So what I have found is, it's just my observation that if they hate free grace or really dislike people who teach it, then they're accepted, and that's just bizarre to me. That's not really a qualification.
There's another word for that, Bruce. They call it a cult.
Yeah. Well, they're accusing everyone else for being a cult, you know, but whatever. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I swear they're the cult of bumping cult of bumping particles.
Well, Dustin, yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know where I'm at.
He has a very small cult of personality, is what Smokey has. A very small one.
Well, I don't know, man. Bond the other day was like ready to die for him, was like ready to jump on the sword for him. Like, I don't know, man. There's some people that I don't. Does he have like beer flavored nipples? I don't understand. Like, what is it that I'm missing? Like, why do these people like dive on the sword, you know, to try and defend the reputation of a man that, I mean, I bet they probably don't know him any better than I do.
A lot of sin talk going on in the YouTube's comments section.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
But it's not relevant to this discussion. It's their own little conversation.
I mean,
I just want them to know that we're like,
kind of fits.
Yeah. Hoo-wee. Well, is there anyone out in the chat who wants to join in? I'll give a couple more minutes for you guys to get in if you want. And if you do, we'll go for another half hour. That's my offer right now. So, yeah, when I think back on this, what happened earlier in the stream, I'm just thinking, wow. I just can't believe the hubris and the narcissism that Smokey Saint went on. Like, I saw it coming. I figured he'd do it, but it's another thing to just be, in front of it and be a witness and be the target of it. And yeah, I try to keep my cool as best as I can.
I don't think he addressed a single thing you said.
Not really, no. But that's pretty common for narcissists and convicted pedos like him, is they will never address what you say and then pretend they did. It's common practice.
I don't think he didn't say. Well, he claimed that those pictures were somehow fake. Like, someone doesn't like the camera is not allowed in all. Like, there are courtrooms where you can take cameras in. This is
the picture of him and the picture of him and Kenny Rhodes together. That was done in the court hallway. It wasn't done in the actual courtroom.
Well, and they also have cameras in the court. You can get that. You can get that record. Like, it's like he's pretending like there's no way to verify somebody by photo in a courtroom. That's just not true. right? I mean, half of the court is done by Zoom, for crying out loud. You're telling me there's no cameras in there?
plus, not to be funny, but he was on a road trip with Kenny
Rhodes,
and right, and they went to the Ark Park or whatever, and it's like like, come on,
Brandon, you are free to join. The pinned comment on the YouTube chat is going to take you right into this room.
They even had video court back in 2004. So I mean, they have courtroom cameras, and it's not impossible to get those video pictures. All you have to do is be a party to the case, and you can put in a public records request. And you don't even have to be like a direct party. You don't have to be like a complaining witness or even like a victim of any kind. You just have to enter yourself into the court.
All right, I am waiting for Brandon to get on that StreamYard link in the pinned comment because he would like to join, he says. Yeah, I like how they claimed that they were going to the Ark encounter, basically, and then all of a sudden they're in North Carolina at this hearing.
Yeah.
How weird.
Yeah.
Smokey and Josh aren't the same person. Why do we have photographs of Kenny Rhodes with him?
But they're not the same. They're not the same.
I love how he danced away from the whole issue of Kenny Rhodes, won't even address him. Makes me wonder if they had some kind of falling out in the last 3 years.
Maybe it's like physical multi-personality disorder, it combined with the Mandela effect. Maybe that's.
I love what. Hold on. Where is it? Why won't it? Okay, here we go. Azo Teddy Bear 64 says, "Did a flood happen and cause the Ark to float to North Carolina?"
That's rough.
Maybe. I mean, we do live in a multiverse, so that is totally possible. Doppelganger. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it's just a magical coincidence that Joshua Nathan Marks Herbell looks exactly like Smokey Saint, and it's also a huge coincidence that Kenny Rhodes was there with him at his court date. Huh.
Yeah, well, maybe Kenny just he liked both of them because they looked the same and talked and acted the same.
Ew.
I'd like to see the law license of the lawyer.
What if both Josh and Smokey were bored at the same time? Like, how would Kenny deal with that?
I believe Kenny might blow him.
Oh, come on. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Hey, Smokey Saint has admitted on this stream, no less, that he's done it before, so.
I know. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was.
It's kind of like
his pigskin hiked by a tight end.
Well, it's like when you drink or you smoke for the first time. It's never your last time. That's what they always tell the kids growing up when they're trying to dissuade them from doing it in the first place. So true. And that kind of thing that Smokey admitted to 17 years ago, he says, that's never the last time. That's never the last time unless you have a genuine change of heart and God sanctifies you. But judging by his narcissism and his arrogance and the way he seems to be not the least bit sorry at all about what he did to that girl, I don't think it's beyond the pale to think that Smokey Saint has gotten a BJ more than once from some people. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility.
Bro, he
whether or not it's true is a different story. Oh yeah. Because I'm not Josh at all. I mean, because if he wasn't Josh, he wouldn't have such a strong emotion about her that he would call her that.
Or no such intimate details. Like, how are you going to tell me I'm the only one to bring up a rape kit and then tell me that Rob Reed already confirmed there was no rape kit?
I thought, who's Rob Reed again? Isn't that like just another content creator?
I have no idea. He's connected in this circle somehow.
Rob is
Reed music.
I'll tell you, he's a lawyer.
Oh, he is?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello, Brandon Irish.
Hey, fellas. I just got to tell you how much I enjoyed that whole situation, and I just got to make clear, you're telling me that Smokey demanded this little presentation, huh?
Yeah, he did.
What a fucking idiot!
Um,
This guy is
Brandon,
a big
Brandon, I'm
retard.
wondering, could I ask you
Oh,
something, Brandon? Did these guys just recently turn on you? Like, weren't you buddies with Dave and stuff? And did they just recently turn on you or something?
oh yeah, like all of a sudden, Dave and Smokey are like intimate or something,
Yeah,
and
maybe in the last couple weeks or something. Because I thought you were hanging out with those guys. I don't watch a lot, but I thought you guys were getting along. And then all of a sudden, I noticed they're Ryan
I
and
don't know.
Smokey
To
are
tell you
both
the
all
truth,
kinds of
I think,
garbage about you.
yeah. I think what happened is because Dave also has this super ego that and I know they're all watching, so I'm loving this. And
Oh,
anyhow,
So I noticed.
'cause
I
Dave
just now
thinks he
noticed that
knows the
the
Bible better than anyone on the planet, and no one can ever debate him on any subject whatsoever. So I think as soon as like Numi and Spider were razzing him and said something along the lines of Brandon's a way better Bible teacher than you. From that moment, wham, now it turned into this. I can't talk to Dave without just a constant barrage of the most ridiculous questions you've ever heard. And then, this smoky retard that, me and him in the first 10 minutes of ever meeting each other were already at each other's throats.
Hey, I gotta throw something in real quick, guys.
I just
Apparently,
noticed Justice Bud.
hold on, guys. I just want to tell you. Apparently, this is being restreamed on the news units.
The whole time.
That's why I love this, because I know they're listening. And
Okay.
Dave and all of them know that I think
Hi guys
Smokey is a self-absorbed, spineless little piece of shit. And man, all of the shit that you've talked to me, pal, I just can't wait to just stuff everything down your motherfucking throat, you little fucking spineless coward.
Calm down.
Because I have all these little fucking spineless
Smokeyisms.
over on fucking Dave's channel talking about, that I'm not a man that backs up what I say I'm going to do something. And I have not committed yet to go into Smokey's little fucking town and finding him and putting him over my head like a little fuck.
We're not doing that. Yeah.
Sorry,
we're not doing
you're gonna
that.
have to chill out. You're getting too excited. You can't say things like that. Violates terms of service community guidelines, guy. Relax, and I'll let you back
And
up.
plus, you're not just affecting my channel; you might affect the news unit's channel.
I believe that leprechaun was driving a Columbine.
Yes, folks, we understand there's a lot of passionate people out there, and you're aggravated, and you've been done wrong by this Smokey character. But don't come up here using this live show to make threats and all that.
Well, I haven't been wronged by him at all. Actually, I kind of liked Smokey before I knew he was a pedo. I'm being honest with you guys.
Here, I buddies with him. I used to talk to him over in Sister Sunshine's room, and he dropped me over a view I had. What was it, a year or 2 years ago? TTOR about the mouththeism thing.
Yeah, because he temporarily toyed around with the idea of mouththeism, and then he just went brrr on you. And so did Kenny.
Yeah,
Rhodes.
I was just a theist for a little while and working my way into Christianity and looking into all kinds of positions. Luckily for me, I ended up running into guys like TTOR, Proverbs, Kent, and others who helped me be able to get out of the position of mouththeism and just go purely Christian. But he went off. It's like, why? If you disagree with somebody's theological view, then correct them. You correct brothers and sisters in Christ and all that, but nope, cockroach, you deserve to burn in hell and die. Oh my goodness.
Shirley says that that was planned. He said over there he got in. Huh, interesting.
Who, Brandon?
Apparently.
You think Brandon came in to do that to start some trouble or get it flagged?
Yeah, to get us flagged. But of course,
All
we're
right,
streaming to your
Brandon.
channel, though.
But they are fighting apparently. I think Smokey and Ryan like turned on Brandon, but yeah, I don't know. That could change in a day's time. Who knows?
They're mentally unstable and spiritually unstable. So yeah, change can happen really quick with those guys. So anyway,
well, and you don't know if they're acting or not either. That's the thing. Like, and here's the other thing. Like, okay, so really, what this boils down to is like a game of spy versus spy. I would suggest, just my opinion here, we get a decent picture and we cross compare it with AI, with facial recognition software, because at this point, there's not going to be another mode of like identification. He's not going to volunteer.
Dustin, I appreciate if you want to go full on Mission Impossible, Top Gun, all that, and get into AI and get out the Skynet, Terminator, and all that shit, or Back to the Future, go back in time to find out, go for it. But as far as I'm concerned, I've seen the videos, I've seen the pictures, and I've actually heard him say Josh a long time ago in Sister Sunshine's room where he was actually on video.
Oh, yeah.
Will Kincaid's already said it. The Presbyterian already said he's Josh. His best friends in the whole wide world have already canceled him out. That's the end of the story. I don't need any more. I ain't no fucking Perry Mason, but I think I got enough evidence for me at least.
Okay. Yep, same here. Yep.
Yeah.
I get it. You feel sorry.
Well, no,
Brandon
I just don't like to be.
That was no tactic. I apologize for my Irish temper. I had no intention of hurting your channel. Well, I guess we'll accept that apology.
Yeah, well, we'll give him a shot. Just don't make threats or anything like that. I get it. You're angry. You're aggravated. But if you're going to say things like that, say it to Smokey directly, not on this thing. You'll get us in trouble. Let's see, guess. Let's see.
Yeah, because YouTube's really picky about that.
All right, so I'm taking Brandon out of the timeout box. He's able to return if he likes.
Well, I am thinking about ending this stream now because we've gone longer than I usually do, and I gotta get some stuff done before I go to bed. So I think we'll call it good. Thank you, Justin, and thank you, Bruce, for joining.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Brett. And thank you, Brett, for being the moderator.
Good night, all.
No problem.
I hope to be able to come on again. I hear you taking a break, though.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a fireworks tent for my church for the next month. So, yeah, I won't be able to do any content at all until mid-July.
Amen.
Well, you know, I love you, bro. You know, I love you. Don't get yourself blowed up with them fireworks.
Nah, I'm more likely to spontaneously combust in the hot weather we'll have.
Yeah.
So pardon me.
Oh, and the tent I'll be working at has a lot of mosquitoes, so I'll be dealing with mosquitoes and the blazing hot sun.
Yay. Have a good one, TTOR. I'm out. Thanks for having me. I hope to do it again in the future.
Nice talking to you, Dustin.
And with that, we bring this live stream to a close. Goodbye, everyone.